the people who truly have your best interests at heart. And this is the easiest way to find out who's got your best interests. Will hear your truth and seek to understand and not control it.
Welcome, welcome. I am so excited to introduce you to my dear friend and colleague, Remi Pearson. Remi, just thank you for taking the time. You are a woman who's made it to 8 figures, who's so real and so revealed. You've inspired me like beyond compare. Just thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful. That's wonderful. And you're gorgeous.
Aw. For those of you that don't know, Remi Pearson is an entrepreneur. She's an author, a speaker. Remi founded the Coaching Institute in 2004, and her team has trained over 11,000 coaches throughout the world. They offer evidence-based coaching training as well as personal development courses, and they're in over 103 countries around the world. Remi has a hugely successful podcast called Braveheart, which I'm a big fan of. It's generated over 12 million views, and the Braveheart app supports people in their quest to live consciously. Remi wrote the first diploma of life coaching in the world and has a master's in applied positive psychology. And she has 2 best-selling books, The Ultimate You and Disruptive Leadership. And she loves talking about how to empower ourselves to live with fierce self-love and compassion, which I think is such an incredible testimony, especially when we're talking about the fierce feminine in business. Remi, what's the journey been like to get to where you are, being a woman in Australia, where a lot of women get accused of being tall poppies for even speaking too loud in school?
It's true. It's true. It's true. So I began way back in 2004 when coaching was not really a big thing. So everything I did felt very much like I was being the pioneer, and I was inventing it in Australia or figuring out as I went along. So I didn't know. The ignorance is amazing because I didn't know how tough it can be. And I didn't know what the ride was. So I was basically getting on a ride with a blindfold, not knowing where the roller coaster was going to take me. And I just had to hang on for this roller coaster ride, not understanding that this is a part of it. Because I just had this very sweet idea that I would have some clients, I would help some people. It would be really lovely. I would learn, I would grow, I'd have fun. That was the extent of my vision. And then to have this very early, because things took off very, very quickly. I went from 0 to 7 million in something like 3 or 4 years. It was insane. So the learning curve was like every day being bathed in a tidal wave. Basically.
I can totally relate. And it's like many of us are giving birth to ourselves over and over and over again.
Yes.
And
yeah.
So, you've just had incredible impact, but can you talk a little bit about what you've been through for women here who have found themselves like thrown under the bus, or, oh my gosh, why is this so hard? Or like, why are people all of a sudden criticizing me just for putting my neck out?
Yeah. So I never felt I was putting my neck out. I always felt I was just sharing the obvious truth, that we're worthy of love, that accepting each other matters, that there is space for truth, for studying what that is, for exploring it. I never felt I was risking until I got the pushback. And so I was I'm still to this day, naively surprised at pushback when I bring truth, or when I say something to me that's evidence-based or very, very obvious, or is clearly going to work, even though it makes us uncomfortable. So I have this naive still vision that we're here not to be comfortable, but to discover the truth of who we are, to live our authentic selves. That takes so much courage, and you've got to explore all the edges and go over the line to discover what the line is. You're never going to learn your true potential playing within clearly defined lines and status quos that have been given to you or inherited by other people. So I never felt I was putting my neck out. I felt I was literally just testing boundaries and figuring out what's going to work and what gets the result and what leads to expansion and what leads to joy and possibilities and transformation. That's my job. And to get pushback doing that is constantly amazing to me. Constantly. Still, it's really silly. I need to mature. But it happens still to this day. 20 years later, I have experiences and I realize, oh, that's right. Not everybody wants to question the status quo. Not everybody wants to feel uncomfortable as they grow. Not everybody understands what it takes. So I'm constantly getting this reminder, but I have learned enough and I've been doing this long enough, Sage, that no matter what, I'm not here to please everyone. What a relief. I'm here to experience my own inner peace and to protect it. I'm here to be as authentically my true nature as I can possibly be. I am here to be not waiting for permission to take up the space I wish to take up. And with that journey comes people who will sit there and will critique it. That is the nature of wanting this for myself and claiming this so wholeheartedly for myself.
What's so inspiring to me is that you're tethered deeply enough in your own mission that none of this pushback, you're calling it, has slowed you down. What would you say to women who have encountered the pushback, whether it's external or internal, and take us to a time, if you're willing, that, you had to overcome something pretty big within yourself or externally to be able to, impact the tens of thousands of lives that you've changed and grow an 8-figure company?
Yeah. So this is a while back, 2013, it hit. It hit in a big way. I would have had at one point over 25,000 hate messages and posts in social media.
Whoa.
There was a We Hate Remi Pearson Facebook group.
Whoa. Whoa.
And it was women.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was nearly all women. It was all women.
It never ceases to amaze me how women can get so competitive, and it's almost like incestuous. Like with men, it's like, hey, brother, I'm going to take you down. With women, it's like hidden. And then it comes out. And then it's like, I just want to knock you down a few notches so I can feel better about myself.
Yes.
So how did you deal with that?
So the comments were, we're going to take her down a peg or two. She's too big for her boots. She needs to be taught a lesson. Someone needs to put her in her place. And I got death threats. That was 2000. I got death threats. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you move through that? Like, I'm so amazed and proud of you for moving through that.
So my tenacity is such that I'm trying to check in with my truth. My tenacity is such that I would keep going. But the cost it took on me, the toll it took on me was so big, it transformed me. So the pain I experienced and the hurt from people who only yesterday had been part of the movement. So what happened was one of our head trainers quit without notice. And a few women decided I'd known about it and it somehow deceived them by not telling them she was quitting. I had no idea. I knew when they knew it. And she went and tried to go into competition. And so 30 trainings were impacted. I had to provide refunds to people's flights that were non-refundable. It cost me $3.5 million to repair the damage she had done and walking out. But for some reason, it was decided I knew about it and I was keeping secret. I can't even imagine. It really, really hurt. So I really took to heart the hurt. I turned up every single day and I would get our team in a circle and we would hold hands and we would recite, calm love, calm love, calm love. No matter what happens today, we will come from calm love. No matter what phone calls we get in, calm love. No matter what messages and DMs, calm love. And for 18 months, every team member stayed and we maintained calm love throughout the whole thing until we came out the other side, because I knew, and I said this every single day for 18 months. And this includes weekends, because people start drinking on the weekend and start getting really active on social media, and the real hate came out on a Friday and Saturday night. So I just communicated to calm love, because I said this, at the end of this will pass, but how we conducted ourselves, we will have to live with. So don't worry about how they're conducting themselves. Let them do them. They're doing the best they can. As much as we find it difficult to understand, hold that in compassion and hold ourselves to the standards we had when it wasn't like this. That we're going to come out of this looking back, either proud of who we've been, or we're going to have sunk. And I didn't mean like the company would sink, like we would not have lived our values, we would not have lived our authentic truth. So I came out of that with my authenticity completely intact. Like I did not deviate from our values. I was so proud. But the toll it took on me, Sage, was so personal, because it did rock my world. It rocked what I thought the world was and what we were supposed to be as women together. I really felt rocked to the core. And my journey in the last 10 years, 11 years has been teaching myself how to be rock solid within myself. So the outside, the exterior can do what it chooses. Live your life with love. I am going to stay grounded, true. My inner peace will be protected. I will not allow in. It doesn't get in now, because it's going to happen. If you play at this level, there's going to be critics in the audience looking for the weakness to make themselves feel better. I get that. So learning how to, it's not even shield myself from them, but to protect my inner truth in the face of it has been my journey for the last 10 or 11 years. That's the heart of it.
And you're coming from such an aligned place. How brave of you to share that story with us. Thank you. Thank you for trusting the universe enough to share that story, right? That's the experience a handful of us have had. Millions of us are so terrified will happen that we stay small in the face of that fear. And here you are, having burned through the fire of the phoenix in the fire in the heart of the volcano, having chosen to say, this line really is going to stay with me, Remi. Who am I going to be in the face of this? We're going to come out of this and we're going to be just asking ourselves, who were we? And that's what we are living with. And
that's it.
You and your team have become so strong since then. I mean, I've gotten to listen to some of the sort of debriefs of how Remi and her team, run this incredible experiential, hands-on, 8-figure, transformational company. And I'm imagining that who you guys have become was partly forged in that fire. But, what came from that continued 18-month-long commitment?
That's so true. So it taught me so much about business. It taught me about who to have relationships with and who to walk away from. So I walked away from relationships that did not stand beside us during that time, that believed gossip, that believed the rumors, that believed it was like a witch trial. I use this metaphor and I know it's so apt. It was like a witch trial. If she drowns or if she floats kind of thing, like no matter what I did, it was evidence of malfeasance. No matter what I did, it was evidence. You're a witch no matter what you do. She doesn't seem to be bothered by it. Clearly she's a witch. She's getting really upset. There must be truth to it. Clearly she's a witch. She's not commenting on it. She must have something to hide. She's commenting on it. Clearly, she feels she needs to defend herself. It was a witch trial. For 18 months, there was this, no matter what you did, there was this circuitous logic. So I made some smart decisions from that, other than meditation and looking how to be with me profoundly. We broke relationships with organizations that did not at all stand beside us. I recreated the entire business. So we used to be part of this national framework. It's called in Australia, it's jargon, ASQA, but it's the National Tertiary Framework. And we're accredited with them. I wrote the first diploma for them in the world back in 2004. All our students used to be part of that. With that happening, within 3 weeks, I invited everybody to join. We created the International Coaching Guild with 52 different coaches around the world. And we said, come and join this association. It is for growth. It is for expansion. It will be supportive during your tough times. And every student, except for one, moved over into the ICG and out of the old framework. And we just flourished from there. It's like, no, this framework would not stand beside us during a tough time, then I will not be with this framework. Yeah. So I think we have one student now with that framework. And I think we're probably going to let the framework go ultimately. Everyone's with the ICG. We walked away from NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. We walked away from everybody that believed the hype and did not take time to respect me enough, to treat me with dignity, or in any way seek to understand what was going on. Where there was a lack of understanding, I walked away from the relationships. It was massive. It was seismic because we were the biggest NLP players in the country. It was a $4 to $5 million division I had that I closed down in one day. It's like, no, I will not go where my truth is not wanted, is not welcomed, and is not sought to be understood. And created brand new methodologies. It fired up a new methodology called metadynamics, which is evidence-based, is stronger than NLP. The brand is protected. You must be accredited with us to be able to use the brand. There's retraining involved. So it absolutely accelerated me questioning the status quo, the way I keep telling people to. That's it. It got me questioning my status quo. So we walked away from every legacy organization there is, founded our own methodology. It is research informed. We sought to forge paths that have not been forged before, rather than just staying in the existing paths. And we've gone from strength to strength because of it. And the legacy organizations, we were over 50% of the memberships with the NLP organization here in Australia. We recommend no one. It's like, no, you weren't with us when we needed you. Why would you be with us when we're super successful and you just take our fees? You're not with me in my down times. You don't get to be with me in my up times. And so that's become really a strong part of my ethos now. You're with me when it matters. And sometimes when it matters is when I'm on my knees. And so I took measure of who was with me when I was on my knees. We had one, Sage, I'm going to tell you the story. We had two coaching schools in Australia, started advertising. If you quit Remi's school, you can join us for 50% discount.
That is, like, talk about ethics. Like, can we just talk about ethics for a minute? Like that, that advertising angle alone would, I think, cause me and almost any of sort of my clients to run the other direction. Like, I'd be like, no, who is this Remi Pearson person? That's what I want to know. But I can't believe what some of us have come from. And what I hear you saying is that you grew stronger and you grew more in alignment with your deeper truth. And you actually created a whole methodology that stood out in a way that was actually more ethically aligned than the other tools that you were using. And your your business has just continued to grow and grow and grow. And the other piece is that like, you're really sitting in the seat of CEO. Like my understanding is that you're not in the weeds. You don't work 40 hours a week. You know, you've had so much creative time to do this on your terms, to bring your podcast to like the millions and millions of views that it's had. And so, you know, for women who are listening and going, oh my God, I hope that doesn't happen to me. You know, I just want to underline, like, I think there's the possibility of Remi going through a major rite of passage so that we don't have to. But that being said, when life happens, we think it's happening to us. I believe it's happening for us, as I know we all do. And I'm just completely astounded by what you've gone on to create. And how
I want to go further, Sage, and say, I don't know anymore if it happens for us. I think it happens as me.
I
think it is me that happened. So, which is tough because it really invites reflection on me. It's not something happened external to me that happened for my growth.
Right.
I believe I happened.
Yeah.
There was something about my vibration or my energy that became a lightning rod for that storm, that perfect storm of 3 or 4 events. And so I really, and still to this day, reflect on, contemplate, and seek to understand what is, because it's not even I had an experience, I was the experience. And I was this lightning rod. And looking at how I created that, and I wasn't responsible clearly for the trainer leaving. I wasn't responsible for whatever happened with the legacy institutions. I get that. I can't control, influence them. But there is something I created for that. I created that somehow. Not literally physically, Sage, with mistakes I made. That's not what I mean. Like vibrationally, for some reason, my spirit called in that experience. It's me. And so that means I'm less fearful of it because I created it. It's not happening it's not external to me happening. Does this make sense? It's not happening for me. It's me that happened somehow. And so there's less fear around that now because somehow I am the co-creator in this. And the experience I'm having is an experience of myself. And it makes it much easier now for me to come to a place of peace when I experience haters. And I'm much less looking for the learning and sitting with peace that this is the experience I've created. Okay, so this is where I'm at. So I bring a lot more humor now. I experienced it just recently at an event, and I experienced humor. Okay, so this is what I'm creating right now. A couple of haters. I'm just going to experience it with good humor and grace and just enjoy what's unfolding because apparently this is where I'm at. So there's a lot less resistance now for me. There's a lot more flow around it. Okay, so this is I decided I would create an obstacle experience. Have it, Remi. Enjoy. So I'm way more flow about it now.
I have goosebumps because, first of all, I'm picking up what you're laying down, Remi. Second of all, on behalf of all women, when we take up space, something oftentimes happens that doesn't happen as much with men. And I think it's inarguable. I think it's inarguable that men can get away with being a lot more fierce, a lot more loud, a lot more, top down leadership when they're calling upon that energy. And when women step into fierceness, we oftentimes experience things like cancel culture. And I just want to hear from you, like, how do we continue? Because I agree with you. The biggest challenges I've had in my life, like, I know it was me. It was me. Yeah. It was my vibration in that growth edge. I know that as women, we are globally pushing a paradigm. We are more connected than we want to admit. We are a network of feminine energy pushing a paradigm. And I feel like you're out there battling at the edge of at the edge of the zeitgeist on behalf of all women. And, how do we continue to give ourselves that permission to take up space?
Yeah. Well, a micro metaphor is this. You were in the room when I said the word no is a complete sentence. And about 10 people in the room went, like I'd said something shocking. That sums up what it means to take up space. No is a complete sentence. It's, well, yeah, for men. Or women who are really sweet about it. But so there's this narrative that's been laid down for us about how we are expected and supposed to behave, and what is accepted and acceptable, and what will be judged and critiqued, and becomes open to attack. And I've seen it happen. You've seen it happen. It's like, that isn't a controversial statement, Sage, that no is a complete sentence. It is a basic, boundaried, personal respect philosophy. If I say no, I don't need to explain it, apologize for it, over justify it, explain my reasoning. I can just say no. And yet that is shocking to many men and women, that a woman can put this philosophy forward. It's like, it's almost like it's up for debate. Yeah, but that's the very thing I'm trying to say. I'm not debating it. I've said no. That's there. I will not engage in the debate. And that becomes offensive. It is offensive that I will not engage in the debate after no, or no, thank you. And I know viewers will be thinking right now, we could at least say no, could at least say thank you on it sometimes. And sometimes it's okay that I'm okay with you being upset with me saying no. I am not, because I'm female, carrying the burden of your upset, of your feelings, of how you are uncomfortable with my strong boundaries. Yet somehow the narrative hasn't caught up with that. The way I talk about it, and I feel passionate about, Sage, like to my heart, there is this amount of space. And for so long, the patriarchy has decided who gets to go into that space, and more importantly, how you can be in that space. So Remi, you can come into this space and you can have the gaps that we've left you, as long as you are feminine and supportive and understanding and a good listener and respectful, that not everybody wants. These are the terms of you coming into the available space. And I say no. Every now and again, my needs will take priority and I will take up the space, how I choose to. Whether or not you want to join me in that space, you're free to choose and you don't have to. But right now, I'm being in this space and I'm going to be fierce. And I'm going to say things like, no is a complete sentence. And I'm going to say things like, no, that isn't a discussion I'm prepared to have. And until that's okay, welcomed, and not seen as heresy, we still have work to do. Because it's not me being that fierce, Sage. I'm just being me. And so I talk a lot to men and women. There is this amount of space. Who do you believe is allowed the space and why? How did you decide who gets to be in this space? Why is it when we're in a group, there's 4 or 5 of us and a man speaks, women orientate themselves to the man, the one man. But when a woman speaks, the conversation can break up and maybe the attention will stay elsewhere. Until those narratives are broken down, until it is considered commonplace for me to take up space and welcome it and not cause raised eyebrows or complaints, we still have work to do.
I can feel my own little uncomfortable tingles going up and down my own spine. And I'm imagining exactly what you said is happening as women are listening. I'm going to actually push my meeting back so we can talk a few more minutes about this. But the reality is that we as women don't need to apologize for our own no. We don't even need to add on. And
nope.
So what I'm curious about is getting more comfortable within this myself, and on behalf of all the women listening, just being able to sit in other people's discomfort or other people's disappointment without making that our own when we're so damn sensitive.
Yep, that's it. That's it. And to go a step further, if we really get truthful, it's not even their upset we're trying to prevent. It's our own upset at upsetting them.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we feel you've heard me say it. No. You've seen me say that on stage. No. And I can feel energetically in me, I'm right now expressing my truth, and it isn't, I know it won't necessarily be welcome. And I know who won't welcome it. In anticipation of that, there is a desire within us to smooth our own waters, to soften it. And I'm getting braver and braver every single day not doing that, to allow my own waves within me to raise, because that's telling me where my healing journey is. So I say no, or I say, no, thank you. No explanation, just no, thank you. And I watch the reactivity in them. I feel my desire to smooth it because of my training as what's defined as female. I don't do it. I sit with the discomfort in me as they dysregulate. I don't engage in their helping them co-regulate, because I am not right now here for them. I'm here for me, and that's okay. And I ride my own wave. And as I do that more and more and more, I get clearer and clearer about my truth. That's the journey.
I love that you're throwing down some high level psychology here, right? Because as mentors, right? As mentors, part of our job is that we do help our clients learn to co-regulate,
of course,
so they can self-regulate. And I think as mentors, it's even more important for us to learn to self-regulate first in the right environments. I've been the only woman on many panels of all men. And I can remember the moments where I had to grab the mic with a shaky voice. I had to kind of carve and interrupt my way in and say, wait a second, that question was for me. She said sage, and you just started talking. So I just want to say to every single one of you, we are the force of women doing this together. For every single one of you listening, as you sit in your discomfort, as you learn and as we learn to speak our truth and say no and allow others to be uncomfortable, dysregulate, feel disappointed, whatever it is, you are not alone in those efforts. And, as we take a few more minutes here, Remi, I just want to say thank you for being so brave. Thank you for testing the waters on behalf of women.
And then speaking to it. You've seen me do it. Like when the dysregulations occurred, I said, this is not my stuff.
Yeah.
This is not mine to carry.
Yeah.
I do not have to smooth your waters.
Yeah.
It's your job to smooth your waters as I say no clearly and definitively. I don't say no and then have to get the price tag of regulating all of you. Yeah. That's not what I signed up for.
Yeah. And I think this is a big part of your superpowers. I think part of what you've burned through is to keep forging this unapologetic, fierce feminine, which is why it's so perfect. We're having this conversation in this, slew of sessions that we're putting out around how to grow your business with the fierce feminine behind you. And I just want to say thank you for not being afraid of polarizing, because look at Madonna, look at Martin Luther King, look at the fiercest and most brave leaders, in our history. And there was polarization there. And look at Nelson Mandela. And, thank you for forging the courage of the feminine fierceness in the fire that lives in Remi Pearson. And, what would you want to leave I think we're just going to have part 2 of this conversation, by the way. But
wonderful.
What would you leave women with who are starting to feel that uprising of like, oh, I really can speak up unapologetically, right? I'm gonna let this happen through me as me. What advice would you leave women with?
The people who have your best interests at heart will welcome your yes and welcome your no. People who are truly committed to your best interests they may feel disappointed and express that, and that's okay. But they won't expect you to change or make yourself smaller to accommodate their own discomfort. People who are truly on your team will never expect you to dim your light to accommodate their own dysregulation. They will learn to speak up. They'll say, wow, your no is really making me uncomfortable. And I would say to that, I get that, and I'm with you. And it's still no. This conversation is the healthiest conversation, where we can express, wow, that made me uncomfortable. Let's talk about it. Not, you're making me uncomfortable, please stop. The people who truly have your best interests at heart, and this is the easiest way to find out who's got your best interests, will hear your truth and seek to understand and not control it. Find your people. Yeah.
You don't have to do this alone. Find your people, stay with them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Remi. Thank you for standing with us and for us. Yeah. Thank you. Please.
Thank you so much.
For every single one of you that this is resonating with, for every single one of you that has had a setback, that has had haters, or maybe you just fear the haters. This is actually a part of the journey, is reconciling inside of us.
Yeah.
What our truth is. I see you standing in your truth so beautifully. For those of you who want to know more about Remi, and I highly recommend that you do go follow Remi, RemiPearson.com. That's RemiPearson.com. We'll put that in the comments. We'll put that in the show notes. And I highly recommend you check out the Brave Heart podcast. Remi, you're seriously amazing. Thank you for being a woman on the planet that has strengthened my resolve, and who I know is expanding the feminine fierceness on the planet on behalf of all of us.
Thank you so much for having me, Sage. It's been a pleasure. I loved it. Thank you.
Mwah. Don't forget to hit subscribe so I can keep getting you weekly content to grow your business that is relevant, authentic, and effective, so you can get out there and shine your light and be the messenger that you're here to be, because your clients are waiting for you.